The Ethiopian Educational Media Agency presents educational satellite television programs.
Hello teacher, hello students. In the last few lessons, you have learned how important cells are to all living things. Today, we'll be looking at biological compounds. Biological compounds are very important because they make up the protoplasm and all other parts of cells. Biological compounds can be divided into two groups: inorganic and organic. Inorganic compounds do not contain carbon and hydrogen. The most important inorganic compounds in living cells include water, salts, inorganic acids, and bases. Organic compounds contain carbon and hydrogen and include carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, and so forth. Students, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to copy this diagram. Teacher, please, can you make sure everyone is copying it neatly? Let's look at inorganic compounds first by looking at water, one of the most important inorganic compounds in a living cell. The human body consists of about 60% water. So, if you weigh 50 kilograms, how much of that is water? Well, I'm sure a lot of you have already worked out that you would be made of 30 kilograms of water. So that leaves only 20 kilograms for everything else. And of that 20 kilograms, about 9 kilograms is protein. Without water, life would no longer exist because all biochemical reactions must take place in water. In addition, water takes part in many chemical reactions. And water is also required for photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is essential to all life on Earth as it provides the energy for plants, the producers in all food webs. Other important biological functions of water are: it is the universal solvent. Most important molecules dissolve in water. It is a medium of transport. Food, wastes, and gametes require water as a means of transport. Water has a high heat vaporization, which creates a cooling effect as we sweat. Bodies of water, such as lakes, retain fairly constant temperatures. This is due to water's high heat capacity, which means it loses and gains heat more slowly. The high heat capacity gives organisms in lakes and seas a constant environment in which to live. Now, let's see how well you have listened. Write down 5 functions of water in living organisms. Right, students? Time is up. Let's see how well you have done. The functions of water include all biochemical reactions take place in water. Water takes part in some chemical reactions. Water is required in photosynthesis. Water is the universal solvent. Water is a medium of transport. Water has a high heat vaporization. Water has a high heat capacity. We will now turn our attention to organic compounds. Firstly, carbohydrates. The foods shown here have one thing in common. They consist largely of carbohydrates. All carbohydrates are made up of only three elements: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Examples of carbohydrates are starch, glycogen or animal starch, cellulose, and all types of sugars. Starch provides us with most of our energy needs. Carbohydrates can be summarized as follows. They provide humans and most other living organisms with energy. And, as your teacher will tell you, energy is essential for all our daily activities, including the replacement of cells and growth of our bodies. The functions of carbohydrates can be summarized as follows. Glucose is the sugar that circulates in our bloodstream and enters our cells to provide quick energy. Starch is made up of a large number of glucose molecules. So, when a starchy food like bread is eaten, enzymes in our digestive system break the starch molecules down into thousands of glucose molecules. These glucose molecules are then absorbed into our bloodstream. Glycogen is known as animal starch because it is similar to starch but does not come from plants. Instead, it's stored in the liver and muscle of animals and is used by the animal as a reserve energy source. Cellulose is found in large amounts in plant cell walls and does not provide humans with energy, because our digestive systems cannot break down cellulose. However, cellulose is very important as fiber or roughage in our diet. Students, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to copy this diagram. Teacher, please can you make sure everyone is copying it neatly? Now, students, let's move on and look at the next group of organic compounds. Lipids. Lipids are similar to carbohydrates in 2 ways. Firstly, they are energy foods, and secondly, they consist of only 3 different types of elements: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. There are a few exceptions, but we'll come to that in a later lesson. Lipids also differ from carbohydrates in 2 main ways. Firstly, lipids produce twice as much energy per gram as carbohydrates. Secondly, all lipids are insoluble in water, and they contain less oxygen compared to carbohydrates. Lipids can be divided into 2 groups: fats and oils. Fats are solid at room temperature, but oils are liquid at room temperature. Copy this diagram. Teacher, please can you make sure everyone is copying it neatly? The main functions of lipids in living organisms are: they provide us with energy, they form an insulating layer under our skin and keep us warm, and they are a structural component of all cell membranes. Foods high in lipids include butter, groundnuts, oil, and fatty meat. The third and last group of organic compounds we are going to discuss is proteins. About 18% of our body weight is made up of proteins. This is because protein is found in all structural parts of our bodies, from cell membranes to organelles to organs like muscle and bone. Protein is to be found. Different cells have different proteins which determine how the cell functions and what it looks like. Some proteins serve as enzymes. Enzymes are proteins that are found in the protoplasm of all cells. They are of utmost importance in regulating the metabolism of our bodies. Unlike carbohydrates and lipids, proteins cannot be used for energy and cannot be stored. The foods shown here are rich in protein: meat, chicken, fish, eggs, and milk. Now, class, let's see how much you remember. I'm going to read 7 sentences, and every time you must fill in the missing word. What do we call the sugar that circulates in our bloodstream? Glucose is the sugar that circulates in our bloodstream. Why is glycogen known as animal starch? Glycogen is known as animal starch because it is similar to starch but does not come from plants. The main function of lipids is to provide us with energy. What is another function of lipids? Lipids are also structural components of cell membranes. What layer is formed by lipids under the skin to keep us warm? Lipids also form an insulating layer under the skin to keep us warm. What is the main function of proteins in cells? Proteins are found in cell membranes where they help make up the structure of membranes. In which other organs are proteins found? the last answer is of course. Proteins are also found in organs like muscle and bones. I hope you all got that right. Now, in conclusion, let's review the key points of this lesson. Biological compounds are as important to life on Earth as cells are. Biological compounds can be divided into two sections, inorganic and organic. Water is the most important inorganic molecule in living things. It is the universal solvent and is required for all chemical reactions that occur in cells. The most important organic compounds are carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. Carbohydrates provide us with energy. Cellulose is found in all cell walls. Lipids are high-energy compounds and are also components of cell membranes. Proteins are structural compounds that are found in cell membranes, organelles, and organs like muscle and bone. Well, students, I hope you enjoyed this lesson on biological molecules and compounds. Remember to always ask your teacher if you have any questions. Until next time, goodbye.